100 years ago, the Wright brothers first took to the air.
They were running a state-of-the-art laboratory out in the middle of nowhere.
And a story of hardship, perseverance, and spectacular triumph.
They must have had the sense that this was big, this was really something.
Featuring Neil Armstrong and John Glenn as the voices of Orville and Wilbur Wright. Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers' journey of invention. A scene from the PBS documentary, Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers' journey of invention. Featuring Neil Armstrong and John Glenn as the voices of Orville and Wilbur Wright.
2 days later, the winds picked up. Bill Tate helped the brothers carry the glider 4 miles south to Kill Devil Hills. Tate and Orville each took a wingtip, while Wilbur readied himself in the middle. At Wilbur's signal, the three men trotted forward with the glider into the wind. Wilbur hoisted himself onto the glider. The other two continued running with the machine as long as they could and then let go. The elevator pitch control seemed to work perfectly. By the end of the day, the brothers were able to achieve several glides lasting as long as 15 seconds. At last, Wilbur was flying.
The flight bug bit him and he was real charged up. And they felt that that 1900 glider was very successful.
And there's an indication that Wilbur made some pretty good flights between 300 and 400 feet, which was as good as anything that Chanute had ever done. So that they were fairly satisfied with the glider, with the caveat that this did not produce enough lift.
I think the gliding on that last day was critical because they could say to themselves, well, now we've glided like Lilienthal and like Chanute. We didn't get hurt. We can even do it better than they did because we can lay flat, operate the controls of this thing, and we're fine.
Light winds returned the following day. There would be no more manned glides before they would need to break camp and return to Dayton. Before leaving Kitty Hawk, the brothers gave Bill Tate permission to salvage what he could from their glider. Mrs. Tate used the sateen fabric from the wings to fashion dresses for her girls. In all, Wilbur had spent barely 2 minutes at the controls of his glider, but he was exhilarated and encouraged. His glider had actually flown. Wilbur later wrote,
"We considered it quite a point to be able to return without having our pet theories completely knocked in the head by the hard logic of experience and our own brains dashed out in the bargain."
Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers' journey of invention.
Here they are, two bicycle mechanics in the Midwest. They have no funding other than what they can scrape together themselves. They have no formal training, and just by their sheer brilliance, they thoroughly trounce all the world's leading scientists. Hiram Maxim, Samuel Langley, Thomas Edison, all the people who had tried to tackle the problem of flight before them, the Wright brothers just sail right through the problem. So the little guy can do it. What you need is a belief in yourself and to keep your wits about you and to outthink the other guy. When you don't have money, when you don't have political power, when you don't have the wherewithal, what you do have is you have your wits, your Yankee ingenuity. And we use this time and time again to teach our children that they can make do with what they have and they can do great things without having great wealth or great power.
A scene from the PBS documentary, Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers' journey of invention. Featuring Neil Armstrong and John Glenn as the voices of Orville and Wilbur Wright.
Even with the help of 5 men from the station, it took the Wrights over 40 minutes of hard slogging to get the machine into position on the launch rail halfway up the slope. Orville and Wilbur tossed a coin to see who would make the first attempt. Wilbur won. Orville took hold of the right wing, while Wilbur climbed into the pilot's position, lying prone on the lower wing. When everything was ready, Wilbur pulled the release, but nothing happened. The weight of the machine on the slope and the thrust created by the propellers jammed the restraining rope in place. Orville wrote in his diary that evening,
"We had to get a couple of the men to help push the machine back till the rope was slipped loose. While I was signaling the man at the other end to leave go, but before I myself was ready, Will started the machine. I grabbed the upright the best I could, and off we went."
Orville held on until he could no longer keep up, and the flyer left the rail. The machine climbed a few feet and started to stall. Wilbur immediately turned the elevator down too far, not realizing how sensitive it was. The left wing struck the ground first, swinging the machine around and slamming the front skids into the sand. The resulting trial was too short to be considered a true flight. The only damage, however, was a splintered elevator support that would require a day or two of repairs. They would not attempt another start from a slope. Launching down an incline would not be considered by others to be a true unassisted first flight. All they needed was a proper wind.